Hello, guys. Hi, Irene and Sharma, Annette and Thelma. I think that's who we have right now, unless I missed anybody. We're going to have great fun today. I've been sitting here setting up and just kind of getting some of my materials out, and it's going to be really, really fun. So today we are going to, hi Pam, we're going to be exploring wax seals. Just hold them over there for now. I don't have room for them, but just, yeah, don't go too far with them. All right, wax sealing is not a new art form. It's been around for hundreds of years. You don't need a lot to do it, but of course, in our modern technology, we've come up with all kinds of things that we can use it for. And there's all kinds of wonderful tools and things that are now available. So, you know, there, just to kind of get to the basics, wax seals were used by the kings, the princes, and lots of people to seal their documents and to be able to assure those who were reading them that they had not been previously written. Did I see the words from Van Gogh? No. Where is it? Is it back there a little bit?
Yeah.
What did it say? Sealing wax, Puff the Magic Dragon. That's funny. What would life be like if we had no courage to attempt anything? Well, here we go. We have courage, don't we? Okay, so without further ado, let's just kind of get into this. This is just so much fun. You're not going to want to sit and watch me talk. You want to see me make some beautiful things. So let's drop the camera and take a look at what's now was a very clean desk, now a very messy desk because I have stuff everywhere. You're only going to need a couple of very basic things to get started in wax sealing. In fact, the very first form of wax sealing was as easy as having a candle. This is called manuscript or candle sealing. You needed a candle, you needed a light, some kind of a light, a heat source, and you needed a seal. And I wanted to try this one. We'll try this one. So it's a simple starting a candle burning and melting the wax. It should not be on fire. That was. And you can see, you're coming much closer, please. We're building a little, hi, Catherine. We're building a little pool of wax here. This is called manuscript wax sealing. We're building a little pool of wax. Now, this is the original method of doing it. I personally find this to be still fun, but maybe a little bit slow compared to the other forms of sealing that we can do. And because it takes a while to melt the wax in the candle, you can have problems with the wax setting before you're ready for it to set. On the other hand, look at those beautiful striations of color that we're getting off of this gold. Isn't that pretty? I wish I had a smaller wax seal here. I'm gonna just grab one here, and this is not really a big enough pool of wax, but we're gonna try it anyway. I do recommend that when you're doing this, you're either working on a silicone mat that is heat safe, candle still acted like it wanted to burn. And that you and hi Glenn, hi Annette. And that you protect your work surface with that. Oh, this actually turned out really pretty cool. We only had a little pool of wax. Come in close. Come in close on this. I only had a little pool of wax, but it actually turned out to be big enough. And you see what I got there? I have a deer standing in front of a wreath. Isn't that pretty? Getting little flecks of other color is not uncommon. Now, if I wanted to bring the color up in this and really accent the color a bit more, I can grab one of my markers, which most of my markers are gold and silver, so I don't know how that would turn out. I'm going to make this deer white just to try and get it to show more on this background. Since most of my markers are already gold and silver, and I grabbed a gold candle. But you can begin to see the image pop up in the background. His antlers here. There we go. And I could take more time and detail this and even put some green on the foliage, but you get the idea. Fantastic on masculine cards. Yes, it would be. Okay. So let's set that off to the side. This is manuscript version. Now, let's say, for example, that I have this little fleck of wax left off my candle, which I do, or even that this had been a total fail. Sometimes you're going to fail. It's going to happen. Maybe this didn't turn out exactly like I wanted it to turn out. I could actually remelt this using one of the other methods. So we're going to set these aside. I think I'll keep the deer, but I'm going to set that little, even this little scrap of wax is usable. And I'm going to put my manuscript wax away because that's about what we're going to do with manuscript because I find it not as fun. But we do have it. And the one great thing about manuscript sealing is that you need 3 tools. A heat source, a seal, and the wax. That's all you need. So taken down to its basic elements, wax sealing is simple and inexpensive. Now, the people who came up with glue guns looked at this and they said, why couldn't you put that wax in a stick like a glue gun stick? And why couldn't you just, oops, get this plugged in yet. Why couldn't we just heat that directly through a glue gun? And the answer is you could heat it directly through a glue gun. It's recommended that you have a low temp glue gun. There are sticks available for both sizes. Glue gun is much faster. You don't need a heat source other than a plug-in, obviously. And it's much faster in general than using a candle. But there is a little bit of limitation to a glue gun. You gotta wait for it to heat up, and that usually takes a little bit. Just want to make sure I actually have. Wow. Catherine got tickets to the Olympics nearest her. That's fun. Not many of us can say that. We've been to the Olympics. I'm going to just let that sit for a little bit. I've got my glue stick ready to go for that. So originally, the purpose of wax sealing was to be able to seal your envelopes. And better than going to Paris. And so we'll do one of those just for the heck of it. I handed these out in my class the other night, and people tried to lick them to seal them. There's no adhesive on the envelope because these were made for a demonstration in wax sealing. So I thought that was kind of funny when they were trying to. They were saying, but there's no seal on this envelope. No, but there will be when you're done. I'm going to hold that down when I seal it. The flap wants to stick up. See how we're doing with this. So, like I said, one limitation is you have to wait for it. Waiting's not something I'm particularly good at. Oh, it's coming out already, though. Be careful, because sealing wax gets very hot. So I'm just going to let that sit for just a minute. And I'll pick a different one. What do we want to show? There are wax seals in every conceivable style. Here's a beautiful snowflake. This one's one of my favorites. I don't know if you can pan in enough to see it come in and show these seals as I'm showing them. Okay. There we go. Kind of a steampunkish gears in a clock. Is Bryce recovering? I don't know, Bryce, are you recovering? He's shaking his head. No, he's not recovering. Okay, so we have that deer we looked at last time. Now, you can't always tell by looking at the seal itself how it's going to turn out. This one I almost returned to the manufacturer. I thought, that is just messy looking. That is mismanufactured. That's the deer we just did. But did you see how dimensional that deer came out? The deer popped to the foreground because it's so much deeper than it looks just on this messy stamp. So that was... So we got the gears. I showed you that one. Snowflake. Here's a bow. This one's very dimensional. See that? It's very deep. Here's one. This is actually one of my favorites. This rose. I know they all look terrible when I turn them over till the camera can get automatically focused on, but this is one of my faves. Really neat, super deep rose. I love that one. Here's a heart. And it almost looks faceted when this one's done. We might use this one for our seal on our envelope. It doesn't like it when I turn it. So I'll try and behave myself. Here is another of my favorites because you guys know me and I love these. There's a dragonfly. It also happens to be in front of a gear. Here's another steampunk one because I bought a set of steampunk stamps. That doesn't surprise you, does it? The steampunk butterfly. Maybe we'll use this one, actually. I think this one would be good. Here is a man's head. You can see the gears turning. These are the ones I have set out for demonstration in our classroom because we've played quite a bit in the classroom with these while we're figuring out how to do it. Hi, Elsie. Pretty. It kind of reminds me of a cherry blossom. I'm not sure what fruit blossom it is, but I think it's some kind of a fruit blossom. And, oh, I love this one. I haven't even tried this one yet. This one, a dragon. The dragon. And he's kind of in a framed box. Isn't that pretty? We'll try him before we're done here today. Okay, since everything in our household has to come from us and Teddy, we could take brown and seal a Teddy footprint on our signature line. And tulips, these turn out beautiful. Tulips. And this one's called the Tree of Life. You have to kind of look past the void to see, but that's the trunk of the tree at the bottom where you see the two dots, and then you'll see the tree up blossoming around, and it's in a frame too. So those are the stamps I had out. This is a good way to capture your attention while we were waiting for the glue gun to get hot. Now, one of the limitations of a glue gun is that you have to wait for it to get hot. Another limitation of the glue gun is that sometimes we've had a light colored stick in this, a light colored glue stick, and it had to work through some of that old color that was still stuck in the nozzle in order to let me get to this glue stick I'm trying to put in here. But it's working now. So I'm just going to go ahead and lay down a pool of glue. See how it's still translucent? The glue stick I just put in is blue. So we're going to get some blue on top of that translucence. Blue translucence actually going to be kind of cool, I think. And take my butterfly and stamp it in there. You notice that, first of all, you do not have to push hard when you put the seal in. You don't have to push hard. The seals are actually weighted. Some are weighted more than others, but this one right here is a brass seal, which is one of the good ones. And as glue guns are always have bits of string to them. This one's not ready to release yet. Sometimes you have to wait a minute for them to release. Which reminds me, if I'd have thought of it, I'd have done this morning. When we did this in class the other day, I gave each of my classmates a bowl with a baggie full of ice in it. And we actually chilled. We didn't get them wet. We just set them on top of the baggie of ice, but we actually chilled our seals. And that way we could, turned out good though. That way we could leave them on less time. And see, our unsealed envelope now has a seal. Let's take one of our accent pens and come in here and see if we can really show off what this butterfly has to offer. You can't color on these with just any marker. They're picky about what kind of markers they want because you're drawing on wax. So some markers will never dry. Other markers will go on, but they'll just wipe right off. So you have to have the right kind of marker for it. Here's our butterfly with our gears. Look how pretty that is. We still didn't really get to the blue wax, so we might have to try this again and see if we can. We actually have the markers in the store. You can go to the stationery store and find some, but it's kind of hit and miss what's going to work. I have some in the store, and I have the ones I have right now look like these. I have silver, gold, white, a different form of gold, and then I have green and pink ones that just came in. So I'm going to do another one of these seals. And I want to see, if you don't have a big silicone mat, you can just get these little silicone mats. I have these in the store. They're like $2. It's just a little silicone mat. I'm going to put down another, all these stringy little things of glue or of wax. I'm going to save those because when we mix up a mixed batch here in a while, we're going to try those again. Oh, just curious how long we're going to have to go before we actually get, oh, there's the blue. See it? There's the blue coming out. We finally got past the old glue stick that was in here, and now we get some nice blue.
Hi to Mary R.
Hi, Mary R. So obviously the glue gun is much, much faster than working with the manuscript or Kindle version of this process. Let's do that dragon you liked. That was liking the dragon. I do not have to push. I'm just setting this weighted. In fact, if I push, I actually can make the seal too skinny sometimes. It doesn't have enough weight to it. So I'm just laying the seal in there. My wax was particularly thick this time, so I have to admit I pushed just a little bit to kind of level that wax out. And I can kind of touch the wax a little around the outside and see when it's setting enough to pull that off. And we're using wax rather than glue. Good point, Thelma. Now, I do recommend that you have a dedicated glue gun to this. I've never read that you had to have, but it makes sense to me that I don't think you'd want to mix wax and glue. Obviously, this goes without saying, and you're all adults, so I'm almost embarrassed to say it, but you do have to keep an eye on that glue gun the whole time. Do not leave a hot glue gun to its own devices. Okay, here's my seal of that dragon. It's amazing what happens when you go to bring up the detail. So let's grab that gold pen again, and let's come in here and see what kind of detail this stamp has to offer to us. You don't have to detail them, but I do love the effect that you get. To me, it's like a treasure hunt when you start putting the metallic over the top. You kind of discover all the details of the stamp, and some stamps are very, very detailed. Let's talk about stamps for a minute. There are many, many different sizes, styles of stamps. Some are better than others. The best stamps are made of copper or of brass. You can tell them because they have a heavier base on them. See the base, how thick that is? And they're just plain heavy. So the best seals are made of copper and brass. It conducts the heat really well. It gives you a really even finish. And those materials are very, very good for them to etch the designs into, so you can get beautifully intricate designs. Of course, the brass and copper ones are also the most expensive. You don't have to spend a lot of money because there are some less expensive ones also. Here's my dragon now that I've brought up let's show him to you right side up. And these little strings, I don't have to worry about that. I can clip those right off with my scissors. See there? What do you guys think of that one? Isn't that pretty? Almost looks champagne colored, the gold I put on top of that blue, doesn't it? Let's do one more with the glue gun. Now, some people would be bothered by the fact that this is not all pretty and uniform. But this is really the nature of wax sealing right here. it is, the wax seal is made to be round, but your pool of wax is always going to be slightly irregular, right? So let's peel off our dragon. Now this sits for a minute and you want to peel it off gently because, it's still a little bit warm under there. Now, why would you want to make this on a mat instead of making this right on the paper? Well, it's a good question. First of all, if you make it on the mat instead of the paper, you're not risking your project. If I've already made my project and my last step is to put a wax seal on it, I pretty much think you're going to want to make sure that that seal turns out great, right? Does that make sense? We want that seal to turn out beautiful. And if that seal does not turn out beautiful, then you may have ruined your project. They're not all going to turn out. This is like every other art form. Remember when I told you the other day that this is sometimes referred to as the 1-inch art? I love that. Most of these seals are about an inch. And so it's good it can be good to use a seal like this that has been created, and then to use a little adhesive. I have not experimented to see whether I can do this with different kinds of adhesive. So I had that, little confessional there. I have not tried it to see if I could do this with different adhesive. This is the adhesive they sell for the purpose. And I could make these up in advance. Let's say I'm doing wedding invitations and I'm doing some kind of a beautiful, swan couple or something. And I need to make a lot of these. Hi, Sandy. I can make these up in advance. And when I'm ready to use it, I can simply peel the back off the double-sided adhesive and stick that to my project, knowing that I already have a great wax seal done. You can make them up in advance. Does that make sense? So you can get these little adhesives. Now, I don't know if I could take my Cricut machine and cut a whole sheet of double-sided adhesive and count on it working. I don't know if I could do them with the perfect, Sandy. We were just talking about that a minute ago. Yeah. So you might be able to use other adhesives. I will say these are actually sort of expensive, but they're not terrible. They're like 3 cents a piece, so they're not terrible. A pack of 100 of them in our store is $2.99. I think we have some 300 packs going in that will be in the range of $9. So it's not terrible, but you could experiment and see if you can use other double-sided adhesives. I just don't know the answer to that yet. I haven't been playing long enough. Okay, we're going to make another one. One more. I got to get another use out of this blue. Because this time I get to get all blue. And let's just see what we're going to put on there. Let's do this bow. Shall we do this bow? We were talking about stamps a minute ago, and we were talking about the quality of stamps. So, I'm not going to get very much blue out of here without feeding another stick in, which I can do. So I need to figure out what I did with the sticks. A lot of the glue stick actually kind of ends up being inside of here. So one of the downsides of a glue gun is that you can't use multiple colors other than the fact that you're going to have color. I'm going to have this blue color in here when I go to add something else. And this blue is going to come out first. And then it's going to mix kind of inherently with whatever I put with it. So I have to kind of do one at a time. This stamp here, see how this one is much narrower than that one I showed you a minute ago? That's because this one is alloy. This one's a metal alloy. It's not brass or copper. It's an alloy stamp. And they're much less expensive. That one fell out. The just try and put that back in and see what happens. Don't know. The metal and the copper and the brass ones. What was I gonna say? I just lost my sentence. I don't know. It'll come to me again. Okay. Well, here's her bow. Don't worry about all these little stringies. Like I said, these little stringies will just pull off. If I don't like the way this turns out, I don't have to worry. This may be our first one that's kind of a fail because we lost some of our detail when my stamp turned over. But you know what? I could take this off. I could just wad it up if I want to. And we'll remelt it using our next method. The next method, and my favorite method, by the way, this is the method where we're going to use a burner, or a furnace, they call them sometimes, and a wax spoon. Now, to me, this is the most versatile way to do this because it uses, by the way, I got to talk to you about this too. Some of these tea light candles have really long wicks. And we actually found in class that we melted one of our burners because the wick on the candle was too long. So we discovered that it's a really good idea. What do I do with my scissors? It's a really good idea. Oh, I put them away. Wow. It's a really good idea to trim your wicks down so we don't have a campfire going under there. You just want really controlled burn. So, and we'll get my candle wax started there. I'm going to set my burner right over the top of that wax. And then I'm going to put this spoon on the top. Now this wax we just had, my fail, I can drop that right into this little pot. In fact, I can break it up in a couple pieces if I want to. I can put that right into that little pot. But the real beauty of using the burner is that while I'm at it, I can drop other colors in there too. I'm going to drop a dark blue and a white in there just for fun. Hi, Brenda. I did not bring water. You maybe make me a cup of coffee or a mocha, please. And you can immediately see some of that wax is melting. This gets surprisingly hot over that little candle. And those are going to start melting together. Now the glue stick that we were using, the blue one, was kind of a pearlescent light blue. And I've just added kind of a matte dark blue to it. And oh, I need some paper towels when you come back this way too, honey, please. Now you can begin to see that's really melting. I don't know if I can get, well, I can't without changing the camera view. That's really starting to melt now. Some of the kits we have these little stir sticks in them, and I have to admit, we kind of laughed at this to begin with, because why would you need a little metal stir stick? Because you get tired of finding other things to stir them with, and this one's just you wipe it off and reuse it. See this wax that we had left over from that translucent wax earlier? I'm going to dump that in there too. Why not? Thank you, honey. Me too, please, Pam says. I'll take a coffee, 2 sugar, and no cream. He's fixing me my favorite form of homemade mocha. It's decaf coffee with a packet of Swiss Miss in it. I also call it poor man's mocha. So we got kind of an interesting mix of stuff going on here. I keep adding wax to it, so it's taking its own sweet time to melt, but that's okay. I want to show you something else as we get going here. This is just so much fun, guys. I can't even tell you how much fun this is. Now we also have like these silicone tools, and they're kind of nice for stirring and blending the colors. I don't want to blend these colors too much. I really want kind of this marbled look I've got going here, but I'm gonna just stir that a little bit and let those final pieces that I dropped in there melt good. And they're melting a little now. So there's no waste in this process. The wax is probably the most expensive part. The waxes vary from company to company. Some of the waxes are quite expensive, and mine are kind of middle of the road, less expensive. I can tell you that in our store, and I've looked online, and our store has the best prices I know of, but in that the waxes at Michael's and Joann's, for example, are considerably more expensive than ours are. Okay, I'm going to use that dragon again, just because that's what I picked up. Move this out of the way. Just let that stand for a minute, and then we'll see what we get from our mix-up of the blue colors. And again, if I had a bowl with an ice bag full of ice chips here, and I was putting this. Yes, it is fairly important to have a spoon with a long handle, and it's very important to recognize that this metal part, get back on camera, this metal part of the spoon gets hot, very hot. Don't touch it. Okay, let's see how this is doing. It usually only needs about 30 seconds, and looks like we got a nice bond there. Oops. Doesn't look like it's quite ready to come off of my mat yet, though. If I wanted to, while it's still soft, I could cut that down to a more exact circle. Thank you. Let's see if this is ready to peel up yet. I tried to just peel it from the side, and it didn't like that. There we go. Okay. All right. Here's our dragon. See all our pretty blue swirls and things through there? Get a little white here and there. The white kind of melted in a little bit. Here's the back. Let's put some colorant on it and see what we get. Let's try silver this time and see if we can bring out some of this detail in the background of our dragon. We also have, I don't have them yet, they haven't come in yet, but they also sell a wax paste that you can put on. You put it on your finger and then, or like a makeup applicator, and you rub it on sparkly. It's like eyeshadow. And you can put that on over your wax seal designs. It will tend to highlight those areas that are the highest, of course, which is what we want to get the detail out of our seals, we want to highlight those things that are raised. I have that coming. It should be here this week, actually. I tried to wait till everything got here, but I was very anxious to show you this. Okay. Here's our dragon again. This time he's in silver. How beautiful is that? Isn't it pretty? Might be going to a Magic Mike show. Annette? Isn't that gorgeous? Okay, so let's play a little bit more with this one. There are all different kinds of wax, and I want to show you some of the styles. In fact, let me get this box out here. The matte colored waxes are the least expensive in our store. They're 100 pieces of wax for $2.99 for the matte colors. This happens to all be pearlescent, this entire box. The pearlescent metallics are $3.69 for 100 pieces. Let's see if we can get something that'll go with that blue that we already have in our spoon, then we won't have to clean our spoon out quite yet. You can clean the spoon out anytime you want to, but let's just get a couple of different colors that we can add to that. I'm going to add a little purple. I'm going to add a little pink just for interest. It takes about 5 pieces of wax to make a typical wax seal. I still have a little bit of about 5, anywhere, depending on the size of the pellets, anywhere from 3 if they're really big to 5. I find I normally need 5. So the metallics and pearlescents in our store are $3.69 for 100 pieces. I'll show you another one next. Let's get this one. This is the metallics and pearlescents. I still have a little piece of leftover wax from that glue gun. Again, I just said a second ago, this metal handle gets really hot. I just touched it, and I gotta say, it gets really hot. Don't touch it. Second value to having an ice bag there is when you forget and you touch the metal handle, you can stick your finger right on the ice. So I can swirl this a little if I want to. I don't want to swirl it too much because I really like the marbly effect. But I can swirl it a bit. You can really see Bryce just took off to go to the house to check on Dad, but when he gets back, we'll come in a little closer on these when they're melting and see that pearlescence really coming out as we do these. Let's see what else I have here. Let's do the dragonfly with this one. This is almost melted. I can kind of see it in the spoon. It's interesting. They have a little bit of translucence in there. And then I have that darker, and I have the pink I just threw in there on a whim. It's going to be interesting to see what this one does. Okay. I'll just pour that out of my silicone mat. Look at those pretty colors we're getting when we pour that out. Lots of interesting marbling effect there. Just going to stand my seal right in it. I'm going to let that chill there for a minute. I have quite a bit of wax on this one, so might need to let that stand a minute. So what we're doing about that, we talked about copper and we talked about brass. Those are the two most expensive ones. They're also tend to be beautiful detail in the copper and brass seals. Then there are the alloy seals that we talked about that are made with other metals. They're not quite as hard. They don't tend to have quite the same level of detail, but they're very, very inexpensive. Where a regular stamp or a regular seal, my brass seals tend to be about $5.95. Without the handle. The alloy ones are sold in combination boxes for, I think I have 10 for $19.99. So they're only like $2 a piece. It's getting pretty hot there. It's smoking, so I'm going to take that off of my flame for a minute. Let's see how this is doing, if it's ready to lift yet. Doesn't seem to be quite ready to lift yet. I'm going to leave it alone. And then there are some stamps that are very, very inexpensive that are made of plastic. We will not be handling the plastic ones in our store because they can actually melt. And I want something more durable than that. While we're waiting on this, let me begin to talk about these. Now, if you do end up with a plastic one, I can give you a couple of tricks to be more successful with them. Because they tend to stick. They don't want to release from the wax, in part because they kind of melt into it, and in part because they're just pesky. They just don't release well. You want to, if you're using a plastic stamp in your wax, I recommend that you spray it with a little bit of Pam cooking spray before you use it. And that way it will relax a little bit better. Next, what I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and clean out my spoon. This little silicone cup is one of the many pieces of silicone that we have. It allows you to kind of accumulate the wax out of the spoon. But I'm just going to take a paper towel. I am going to be careful because I know that the spoon can be hot. And then once I get the majority of the wax out, I'm just going to wipe my spoon out. I'm going to try a different color this time. This one is a different wax. This is called translucent. And it can be very cool. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And because this time we're going to shape our wax, I'm going to pour it into this brass ring. I'm going to put one extra pellet in there because it tends to take a little bit more wax to fill the cavity. Here's our dragonfly that we just did. Camera's not focusing real well because I'm not as still as I should be. So while we wait for Bryce to come back, I will just go ahead and I'm going to add some gold to this. This is a steampunk dragonfly, so he's got a little gear behind him. We get all kinds of metallic and pearlescent colors. So if you wanted to do these gears in pearlescence or in metallic gold, metallic silver, brass color, rose gold, all those colors are available. Or you can do it in blue. Oops. And I just wiped off a little bit of the wet ink with my thumb. This will dry, but I'm being impatient. Here's our dragonfly in front of that gear. We'll get Bryce to show us closer up when he gets back. Okay. And that wax that we took out of the spoon, this little silicone scooper, I can just peel that right off and toss that in a future batch. While we've been doing that, we've got that purple translucent softening up over here in our burner. These little candles that come with this are shorter than a standard tea candle. I recommend that you use the shorter candles, however, because if you use taller ones, it's possible that you could overheat. You know, you can scorch the bottom of your spoon, you can actually melt your furnace. So I recommend that you use the short ones. The short ones last about 2 hours. Now, as I'm looking at this, I have a beautiful, deep, translucent purple in here. It does have a few little bubbles in it. I can try to stir out the bubbles or kind of poke them before I take it out. If I still have bubbles, I can try to pop them before they set. Once it starts setting, you want to leave it alone because you just mess up the finish otherwise. Let's go ahead and pour this right into this mold. This metal ring is a mold. And I'm going to, I didn't do enough, guys. I should have done even more because these rings take extra wax and I didn't do enough. So I might have to try the mold again. Get everything we can out of that spoon. But let's go ahead and put a seal on it to see what we get. Use this Tree of Life one. We're not going to get the effect I was looking for with the mold because I didn't have enough. You might be able to, Glenn, but I have no idea how to instruct you in microwaving it. I would say yes, that Perfect Pearls would probably stick really well to these, Pam. And the other thing you can do is you can take Perfect Pearls, you can take mica, you can take other things. You can sprinkle a little of the powder actually on top of your design before you add the seal. These take a second, these translucents do take a second to set, so I'm going to give that another little bit. Guess I'll take my ring off since I wasn't able to accomplish that this time. I don't think so, Glenn. Okay, here we go. Look at this. Now, you cannot see the detail very well in here. You can tell it's a tree if you look, but you can. Let's get that one of these pens out here and let's add some detail to this translucent wax and see what we get. These tend to be beautiful when they're done on the translucent. Translucent and Aurora are the other kinds of wax that we have. They're the most expensive ones. I think they're $4.69 for 100 pieces. So it has a little ring around this tree. So I'll catch the wreath around it while we're adding the detail. So you can see I actually ended up with a nice amount for the seal, but it wasn't big enough to go in a square I was trying to demonstrate to you. Here's our tree. It's hard to hold them up there enough that you can see it, but Bryce had to go check on Dad. So there's our tree. I love the way the metallics play on the translucent color. The next one I want to talk to you about is Aurora. And these are very cool. They're probably my favorite. I have to admit it. They're probably my favorite. The Aurora ones have kind of an AB finish to them. I'm just going to put that right in on top of that purple since I'm going to put some extra in there too so we can see if we can use see if we can get the square to work for us this time. You need more if you're using these pens I have were pens that the manufacturer sold that were made specifically for using on these wax seals. And I have an assortment of these in the store. We have this in silver, gold, white, green, and pink. I can just peel off of my stir stick and my silicone tools. I could just peel the cold wax right off. Got this nice spoon of wax working its way up. Bryce is back, so let's have him show us those pieces that we've done. I couldn't really get a good view for you. I think it was this one. There we go. There's our steampunk dragonfly. These don't just have to be for fancy occasions, though. They can really be for any occasion. And we're going to look at that in just a minute here. We're going to play with some. Here's my tree of life. See you, Elsie. Thanks for stopping by. Okay, back up a little bit and come in on our wax here, if you can.
Question.
There we go. Good. Focus right there. Well, that melts because this is going to be beautiful as it's melting. You're going to begin to see these colors merge. And
Thelma has a question.
Thelma, does the wax color blend together like other color? If you stir it, the more you stir it, the more the colors are going to blend, Thelma. It is very possible to just end up with a single color, even though you use multiple wax colors. But these Aurora colors that I was talking to you about are just beautiful if you don't overmix them. They're really pretty to just let the colors kind of merge naturally in. We're going to talk a little bit more about the uses for these seals next after we do another one. I want to try again to use this. try again to use this square
It
frame.
says, if you put blue and orange, do you need to be careful, like making mud?
The colors will not automatically merge, Thelma. You'll get a little mud around the edges, perhaps, but they won't completely mix unless you stir them. So my recommendation is to use complementary colors. Then you're never going to have that problem. Use blues and greens together, and light blues and dark blues, and purple and lavender and white. And you can see this beginning to really blend in the spoon. Look at that. Isn't it pretty? Look at it. It's getting so shimmery and so beautiful. This is the Aurora waxes. They are my absolute fave. A little more expensive and totally worth it. I'm using more than my 5 pellets this time because I want to make sure that I have plenty to fill my frame. And if I end up with more in my spoon than I need, I can always scoop it out and reuse it. So I'm going to put even a little more in here. Oh, that would be over the top, Pam. You're right. It's so fun and so pretty, and every new batch is like an exploration, to see what you're going to get.
If you put these on an envelope, you probably need to have them hand stamped.
I would say yes, you probably do want to hand stamp them. If you're putting these on envelopes, you do want to have them hand stamp them. I'm not sure what would happen with machine mail, but they can go through the postal service, but hand stamp would be a good idea. I'll get my little stirring stick out here. Just going to bury some of these pieces that are still working. Isn't that pretty? Look how beautiful that is. Next, we're going to talk about how we can use these seals in addition to sealing envelopes, which is pretty much what we've stuck with so far. While we're waiting here, let me show you a few of the other ones I've done. Here's a seal where I had a variety of interesting colors in there, but it's a snowflake. Here's one of those gears. Here's the gear colored. Love this one. Look at this one. Pearlescent purple and white on a snowflake. Isn't that gorgeous? Be beautiful on your Christmas cards, wouldn't it? Okay, I think our wax is looking ready to go here. So I'm going to go ahead and take it off of there. And I'm going to pour it right into our mold. I think this time we'll have a little better luck getting a mold size bit. Although it really does take a lot. Wouldn't even be a bad idea to melt more than one spoonful to do the molded ones. I have more than one mold. I should have brought more than one over. But that's okay. If it doesn't go full size, we'll still know what we were trying to go for. And not everything's going to be a success. There's going to be some fails along the way. I think I could have spread this out a little further. See how it's kind of rising above the edge of my mold? If I had spread that a little bit, I could have probably done that with my little spreading tool. I could have gotten it into that entire square. Some of these frames are actually really big. Look at this one for the heart. It's really, that would easily take two. These little frames are sold separately. I have two styles of these frames. The little circle's a little easier to navigate. Oops, I gotta get on camera. Where am I? There I am. The little circles are a little easier to navigate because they're not that much larger than the stamps. And there's one called Wave that's beautiful. We got that massively huge heart, and we've got the square that is there. We also sell a 7-piece kit of the frames that are all different styles. We get close to getting a square, but we didn't get the entire square. Here's my butterfly. Look at the colors of that iridescent stuff. Isn't that amazing? Even the back of it's beautiful. I should probably put a little color on here to really bring out those highlights. Put a little silver on there just to kind of capture the gears and the little details of our butterfly. Stamp prices I started to tell you about earlier. The alloy stamps are about $3 each, or they're sold in sets of random sets of 10 and 15 for $14.95 and $19.95. Yes, if you buy the random sets and you get more than one, you're going to have some duplicates. I'd love to see you guys trade in any of the duplicates for ones you don't have by trading with each other. There's that beautiful butterfly. Oh, that's good to know, Sandy. Okay. I don't know why you couldn't make a necklace out of them. Okay, now we're going to change gears here, and let's talk about actually using these in our projects as well as on our envelopes, because that is where some of the fun comes in. I'll show you a couple samples I did before, and then we're going to just put my candle out, but that's fine. Now, don't judge me, I'm just learning. This wax was a little bit more liquidy than I was expecting. It actually still kind of turned out pretty, but all I did was take an artificial piece of fern. It's not even artificial, it's actually natural fern that's been processed. I took a little piece of fern, I tied a little bow, and then I poured my wax over the top of it. Now, had I used a mold here, that little circle mold, this would be much more organized, but you can kind of see what I was going for and how it turned out. I love the colors. I think the colors are fun, but this isn't as pretty as it could be. I might try that again today. Here's one of the things out of that Victorian paper book that I was showing you. I just love. I cut a couple strips of paper to represent jute. Jute works really well with this process as long as it's not a real heavy jute. But I'm so allergic to jute that I can't even have it in the same room with me without getting stuffed up. So I used little paper strips to wrap around my corner instead of jute. Isn't that pretty? This is out of that new paper pack this week. So you can use them on your cards. In fact, I think we're going to make a card or two right here, right now. Let's see what we want to do. trust those. Okay, so I had a couple pieces of paper here that I had. This was left over and I couldn't waste that. So I'm going to make something out of it. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to do that yet, but we are going to do that because I couldn't waste that beautiful image. I'm going to get myself a 5x5 card here. Fold it. And let's see. How about I have some ribbon here too that I have pulled off my wall in advance. The wall of ribbon. I might use a piece of this. That looks pretty. So I'm going to cover my card first. I think I'll go ahead and cut this down to whatever size that wants to be to give me my width of the lady. I'm going to have to cut off a little of that detail. I hate that, but I'm going to do it anyway. Do you have the... Yes, we do. In fact, I have an entire set of the alphabet in brass for $39.99, Sandy, which is amazing because that's the brass ones, not the alloy ones. And you get the entire alphabet. Okay. So I could piece this back together like this, or I could use an entirely different piece of paper to put these back together. This has some interesting... I might go that way. I like this better though. Is that big enough? That's big enough. Let's just use the same piece. But I do think I'm going to put this on another piece of 5x5 paper first, so I can wrap my ribbon around it and then attach it to the front of my card. So let's cut this piece to 5x5. I'm going to hold it up to my card and make sure it's going to fit before I do all of my work on it. And it's slightly larger, but I can cut it down when I put it on there. I'll go ahead and make it in this size, and then I'll trim it down a little. Get some tape here. I'm going to put my tape fairly close together on this since I'm going to be merging two pieces of paper. I want to be sure and catch both of them nicely. I just couldn't waste that beautiful picture of this woman. She's lovely. Extra piece here too. I got lots of tape on this. And we'll peel those tape pieces up. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put my pretty lady on here. I'm going to use that cutout piece. Put it up here. I'll go ahead and trim this down to size. I'll have to trim it again after I put it on my card. I'm going to measure my card and see exactly what size I got to get to. And that says it's exactly 5 by 5, but maybe my paper wasn't exactly 5. It says 5. Little edge off. A little bit of white there, wanted to make go away. I'm going to do something. I'm going to trim my card down just a tiny bit to compensate for the fact that I trimmed my. Oh, that's just going to be perfect. Okay. Now I'm going to take this piece of ribbon. I'm going to wrap it around the seam on that card. And come back to the other side. I have to change my cutter beef scissors up here. I think I've said that before. I haven't done it yet. Some of my scrap. Okay. I'm going to just use some of my. I was going to use some tape, but I think I'll use this. Oh, gift soaps would be beautiful, Mary. That would be beautiful. I make soap too. I didn't even think about putting them on soaps. That's a great idea. I'll use a little of my super tacky on this ribbon. I chose that because it won't sink through like some of my thinner adhesives would. I'm going to put this piece of ribbon right here over my seam. I did a little bit of die cutting before we started here, just to have a few pieces ready to go. Let me see what I die cut that will work with this. Let's see. I think this one might be a nice addition. I'll take the edge off this. That's beautiful. I'm going to use some of my sticky specs. Sheet out here. Put this pretty greenery down. What about this? beautiful piece right here. On my card. How gorgeous is that, guys? We have to decide what kind of a seal we want to make for this. Boy, I love that. That's pretty. That's very, very pretty. Let's go ahead and put this down to our card. I'm going to light my flame and get it going again. Wick kind of disappeared down into the wax on it. No, so I'm gonna wake up again. There we got the flame. And let's see, what colors are we going to want to use on this? It would be beautiful to use something that's got some rose kind of color to it. I'm going to let that heat just a little bit, then I'm going to clean that wax out of there. Should have done it when we stopped. Of course, I could just put a new bowl on there. Let's just do that in the interest of time. There we go. I think, what did I do with this over there? I'm going to try using this little ring this time. Go ahead and glue this down to my card. Oh, I got glue going everywhere over here. I wanted to do this on a separate piece of cardstock so I could pin the ends of my ribbon underneath the cardstock. Normally I could have just gone around the image if it weren't that I was trying to save that little image I wanted. Looks good. Down. All right. I have kind of some rosy colored beads here. I'm going to use a couple of those. I have these pinks. Needed a different color combination than we've been using. I'm using a circle, so I'm going to put a little bit of extra pink in. Maybe even one more of those. It's useful to have a pair of tweezers handy. I decided against that one. I want the one that's pearlescent next to it. See how we're doing here. We're melting nicely. And make sure we have plenty of wax this time. I can always save it. I have a little piece of cord here. Actually, I think I want the burgundy one. Have that look at it. Well, I got ribbon everywhere. Time for a wet wipe. Delivery. Yes, he hears his cousin barking in the house, so he feels like he has to join in the fun. Delivery. Just going to tie a little shoestring bow here. They always end up being huge when I tie them, then I have to get them down to a reasonable size. Just a little piece of cord here. Oh yeah, grandpa piece. You definitely do. I think I told you guys that I could usually only tolerate my grandpuppy Gypsy for about 4 days. She has been such a good girl this trip. She and I are getting along famously still. And Jordan and Jake will be home on the 26th, so. Not even a case where I think I have to allow her to live. I'm going to have the knot of my bow inside my stamp, and I'm going to have my tails of my bow and the loops outside, stirring just a little bit here to kind of keep things melting. You can see that pearlescence in this. We'll see how this turns out. I don't know, but we'll find out, won't we? Let's drop your nose a little bit further down in there so they'll get with the program. Now, what kind of a stamp would look good with her? No. Definitely not steampunk. Tree of Life, maybe. Don't know if I can get into that one. That's a round. Dragonfly might look nice. See if those wax pellets are fully melted in there. I still might need a little bit more, guys. Sorry it takes longer, but sometimes these decisions you have to make as you go. I don't know. I haven't tried it, Thelma. Might be interesting to try. Put little drops on the flowers. Don't know. The wax is pretty thick, so I don't know how amiable it is to just dropping droplets. I'm going to have some of this coffee Honey brought me while I wait. Ah, that's good. Mary still isn't feeling good. Last night we had Dad because we only initially subscribed for 5 days a week. But we already went ahead and subscribed for a 6th day. And our new friend Rosa will be here next Friday night to help out. I don't know. I think it'd be fun to try. Not sure I want to mess up my card by trying on this, but I could probably try on something else. I actually have another one of these. Let's see what happens if I try to put drops on the little flower blossoms and maybe change their color with this. Don't know what's going to happen. We paint with wax. That'd be an entirely new application, wouldn't it? Dip in there. That's actually rather pretty. Let's keep this out. Let that cool a minute. Gather up all my little odds and ends. Drop them back in. Also, I have some of my stir stick I can drop back in. And then we'll try and pull this wax into our ring. Never know what we're going to get, guys. We make it live right in front of you. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's not so great. You never know what you're going to get. But it's always fun to find out. I think this is about ready to go. I might go over the top of my ring this time. What do I want to use? I wanted to use the butterfly. Well, it's a butterfly. I wanted the dragonfly. Okay, this time it's going to go over the top of my wax ring because I got it a little too full. Live and learn. We'll see what we get. Going over the top of my wax ring this time. So that might not be perfect, but we'll find out how it looks when we take it off. Okay, joke. Have you heard about the new game called Quiet Tennis? Just like the regular tennis, but without all the racket. Let's see how this works out. See, this is one of those areas where using a seal might have been useful. Because then we already had our pretty card put together and we could have put a seal on it with adhesive and not risked it. But you know, you have to try stuff. I probably still could save my lady and do this again. This is where I put the wax on the tips of those some. I actually think it's kind of pretty. Now, getting the ring out is going to be interesting. So I went over the top of the ring. I'll let the ring stay in there for a minute. This is what I have so far. The dragonfly looks beautiful, but the ring is going to be pretty messy. Getting that out might be messy. Huh. Getting the entire thing off is not messy. Well, that's interesting. Hey, we might make this come out yet. I think we can save this one. Just have to do it again. Pull my bow out. I'm going to use not so much wax this time. Put that back in there. The wax, the ring pulled the whole thing off. And I can just break this up in a few pieces and maybe not use all of it. Of course, we won't get the pretty marbling this next time because the colors will merge a little bit, but the colors look good with our colors anyway. So but you can just take that. Oh, we're going to try it again. Since the whole seal came off with what do you think? Should we paint some of those flowers on like we did in this one? You think we should paint some of these flowers on? I could just glue these flowers on over the top of the other flowers, I guess. But so you guys saying you'd rather not have the circle in it? You'd rather just have the wax pour out? We could do that. Okay. The camera's moving, Bryce. So you guys want the circle in or the circle out? Yes. Yes, which way? Circle in, circle out. Yes, I think must have meant to putting some flowers on it. Whatever Darlin wants. Out, in, out. Yes. I have 2 outs and 1 in. Okay, we'll do a little painting while we're waiting for our wax to melt here. Leave it to Thelma to come up with a whole brand new use for the wax. Some pretty thick bits there. Okay, we're taking it out. The wax does get thicker the second time you melt it down, but I do love the fact that we're not wasting it. Oh, he's getting as much rest as he can, Mary. He's falling asleep over here. That's when the camera was moving. His arm was moving the camera stand. Okay. This will take just a minute yet. While we're doing that, let's maybe get another card ready to go. Let's do that. Let's try that fern again. Put a piece of our background paper out of our book as soon as I figure out what I did with the book. Put the book back in the basket. I might have, I didn't intend to. Yes, I did. Put it back in my... I had the sleep cam going. Yes, we did. Just looking for a piece to use with my fern. Love this paper pad. Absolutely love it. Love it, love it. This is a nice one. Okay. I'm going to cover my card in green. That's looking good now. Let's go ahead and go back to our project. Got our dragonfly ready to go. It's kind of going where it wants to go, which I suppose is par for the course. Let that stand there for a minute. I have no idea which direction my dragonfly was going. That's a mistake. But let's go ahead and put that one there. Yeah, inside out would be a good idea, Thelma. We definitely have an irregular circle. Definitely got to trade out my cutter bees. Ridiculous. Oh, good. Didn't mess it up too bad. I didn't know the orientation of my dragonfly when I did that. But the dragonfly is going right side up. Phew. Actually, I really, really like this. Trim my tails just a little bit more. I like it. I like it a lot. Beautiful. What do you guys think of this one? I do like the wax on the blossoms, Thelma. I think that's fun. Okay, put that up there. Now, let's go back to this one we were just going to start. I'm going to cover my card in some green. You know what happens when you clean your desk? Sometimes you find another roll of your precious whiter finger lift tape. It showed up yesterday when we cleaned the desk. Did you see your tip? No. Let's go back to Thelma's tip, honey. Tip. Use a marker to mark the stamp at the bottom. Yes. Yes. That would have been... I had a moment of panic there. That would not have had to be the case had I had my stamp marked with the top. That's a very good tip. Okay. There we go. I got that. I'm going to cut this to be... my foliage I cut. Okay. I'm going to cut this to be 4 5/8. Right. 4 5/8 by 4 5/8. Little green show around the edge. Pretty, pretty, pretty. I have this clover looking thing kind of messed up in my die cutter a little bit, but I think we can solve that. Put some sticky specks here. Left a little blossom out the top, didn't I? I'll fix that. Just give it a little sticky by itself. Okay. Use the ring on your mat. Oh yeah, you're right, Mary. That would have been the way to do that. I had to think about it for a second. Yeah, that would have been the right way to do that. You guys are full of such good ideas.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, Karen. All right. I'll put my little flower down here. I have a little more wax here. I'm going to get started. I'm just going to dump some of these odds and ends into it too. A little bit of gold there. Just put them in. When that happens, I cut this twice so I could trim off some of the flowers and put on there. Which works better if you don't lose the flowers immediately upon making them. My super thick tacky is dripping on me today. I'm not sure I like those pink flowers on there, honestly. I think I might do something else with that. The color I chose doesn't look great with those pink flowers. Let's go ahead and glue this down while our wax is melting. Almost there. Let's wax out of here. Get quite a lot of wax in one of these boxes. I told you about the price per 100 pieces. And then we have a few colors in this because I just thought this was gorgeous. So we have a few colors in this size jar. This is 7 something for a great big jar. These boxes here are like $16.99 for lots of colors. Okay, this is beginning to look pretty good. Bury that last piece I got and put it in there. That's a very good idea about marking the top. Yeah. Okay, this is the, I'll mark the top or the bottom. I suppose I want to mark the top. Just put a little black dot there with my intensity marker. I think this looks good. So wax seals on your cards. We'll finish this one. Maybe see if I can get a little better example from one of these. And I still have one more thing I want to show you before we get away. She's right. Yep. Okay. Take this off. Looks beautiful. Let's put some little pearls in the center of these green things. Because I didn't like the blooms that cut to go there. Need one of those pickers. Jewel pickers. I sell them in my stores. There's no excuse I don't have one here on my desk. Okay. Little pearls all over. That's okay. All right. I'm going to use my white marker to highlight my butterfly. I was going to do another card with that piece of fern, but I think we're going to stop there because when I have time to show you our gift boxes. I'll tell you guys another thing I really wanted to do today, but I went to the dollar store yesterday in search of foliage and they didn't have any. I think it would be absolutely beautiful to tie a little bow around the base of a bouquet of straw flowers. Around a the base of a bunch of straw flowers and then wax seal the bottom of the straw flowers. I think that would be beautiful. The white looks a little messy. Might have to go over it with a different color. So let's take time out here. Grab my little scoopy thing. Let's see, I can gather all that wax in a scoopy. I can use a paper towel to clean off my spoon. Everything looks ready to use again. Oops, this handle was still on. Okay. Let's move that out of our way. All these wonderful tools out of our way. And let's take a look at some of the boxes we made in class. I had one ready to decorate here, but I played too long with some of the other things. Okay. Here. Oops, let's back up. There we go. Here's a box decorated with ribbon and a wax seal. Here's another one I think is gorgeous. You can tell I just spared all the expense on wrapping paper for class. Can you grab me a couple more? Oops. On this one, I believe Lisa, who made this box, used that wave design around her seal. Thank you. Blue one. She actually poured this twice, and that's why I have just a little bit off to the side here, but we'll pretend that's not there. The bow got a little bit squished on this one, but you can still see what we were doing. So, point being that there is an infinite number of ways that you can use these. I love the idea that, was it Mary that shared that about the soap? I think it was. I thought that was a great idea. Soap bars. Make soap bars for Christmas and then seal them with a wax seal. That'd be a beautiful gift. So that's another great way to use this. Any other ideas that you guys have for how you might use these wax seals in everyday life on your cards? Well, let's just look at some of what we've done. Here's our envelope. Come in closer, please. There's our envelope. That's beautiful. With the translucent. The one we just did. One before that. I really do like the flowers on this, Thelma. We have wrapping twine around your card and then applying a seal. And this one, which I admittedly was messy, but you guys seem to like it, so I'll keep that in there. Our boxes, you can make them in translucent colors. That purple. That's so rich when you do these translucents. Beautiful. You can do them in our pearlescent shades. You can do them in Aurora and AB shades, metallics and pearlescents, matte. There's some of ours that are just glossy. They're just really bright glossy colors that are not necessarily special treatment in them. So you've seen lots of different tools. What kind of questions do you guys have for me at this point? While you're thinking about your questions, let me encourage you to hit the thumbs up if you haven't done that already. I am always grateful when I see those. Makes me feel good. And it also tells YouTube that this is a channel they can feel good about recommending. So it's important in that respect. When we sign off today, you will want to refresh your screen and then hit and then type in a comment about our class today. That's great. And if you're not already a subscriber to our channel, hit that subscribe button because it's great fun. This is very, very fun. Oh, I did have one other thing I wanted to show you. You may be wondering, well, we've talked about a lot of things. How do I know what to get started? And I do have a couple suggestions for you. We have some nice little boxes that are already put together that you can try. This one steals. But we have some boxes like these in our store. Come in closer, please. You don't have to use the furnace. This one, you're just going to, with this selection, you're just holding the spoon up here over the candles. But it's a nice little way to get started. This is also a great way to give these as a gift because these gift boxes are beautiful. A lot of these gift boxes here too. This one has outer seal on it. Take that off. Now, this is a beautiful set. Come in a little closer, please. You get the silicone mat we were using. You get the furnace and the spoon. You get the tweezers. Here's our little stir stick. It's a feather in this one. Here's an accent pen in gold. They give you a couple little candles. And let's see what we can see this. This is, I believe this says Miss You, but I'm not certain. You get a beautiful snowflake. The snowflakes always turn out pretty. And you get, what are you? Oh, this is a reindeer. It's a beautiful reindeer, actually. See if I can show it to you right side up. Can you come in closer? You see the reindeer in there, standing here?
Yep.
And then you get two beautiful bottles of mixed waxes and pearlescent tones. And the handle on this one is just gorgeous. Look at this handle. And this has that that cherry blossom or apple blossom or whatever you want to call it. So this is a really, really nice set to get you started. A handle, 4 stamps, and everything else you need. I mean, virtually everything we used, including the silicone mat. And this is $39.99, which is pretty amazing when you consider that if you go out to buy a single, these are alloy, but if you go out to buy a single brass stamp, you can spend up to $20 for just a single stamp. Most of our brass heads are $5.95. You will find that there are 2 of them in my store that are more than $5.95. One of them cost me $8, so it's priced at $15. And the other one is just $1 more. But we have the brass handles, we have alloy handles, we have the mixed bags, we just have everything. So there we go. So this is a good way to get started. You can start any way you choose. I do have some selections of handles and things too. This is a really nice little Christmas set. You say, yeah, this is really fun, but I'd never use it except for Christmas. Well, here is a pretty little handle with that cherry blossom. And then a Christmas tree, a gift, Merry Christmas, a snowflake, and bells. And this is like $15. So, okay. Are there any questions at all? Have I put you to sleep? I'm anxious to see your comments about class today, what you enjoyed using them for, what you think you might use them for. So please do, when we sign off, refresh your screen, and they are, I will really look forward to reading your comments. How do you send wax sealed envelope in the mail? Well, I've heard, Sharma probably has the most experience with this, and she says that sometimes they are legal to send, but sometimes the seals get beat up in the mail. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to put your sealed envelope inside a bubble mailer. I think that might be the way to ensure that it arrives at its destination undamaged. Any other questions? That was a good one. Thank you, Pam. If you have questions when you go to shop, everything's really nicely organized in our store. I was going to put the wax sealing stuff on sale today so that you guys could go ahead and get yours, but I already have that coupon code out there that I think will take care of things for us. It is 10 off everything, and you get 10% off everything in your order, regular and sale price, as long as you spend $40. Okay? Any other questions? So be sure you use 10 off, OFF, everything, no spaces, 10 off everything. Okay? Any other questions, comments, or pearls of wisdom? This was a lot of fun for me today. I hope it was fun for you. We have some of everything we've looked at here in the store, and probably, yes, just like that, Pam. Thank you. If there are no other questions, comments, or pearls of wisdom, I'm going to go ahead and say good night, Gracie.